Recording, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, we're live.
we're live. Awesome. Have you been? All good?
Yeah, doing good. Weekend, 2 weeks vacation. I had 2 weeks long vacation, which is a good time to clean my head, study
Nice.
some things. Yeah. You
Yeah.
you you know, I the last conversation was very insightful from my end. I
Mm,
learned a lot. So it
same.
was
Yeah.
throughout the week I had a couple of times to think about things that I've learned from that conversation. It's amazing how you can every time you learn new things from every conversation, from every interaction.
Yeah.
It's an endless process throughout life.
100%. Yeah. I think it's funny. Like we know each other. How long now? Uh,
Uh,
nine,
when
10
did
years.
you came into Tracx?
I think 2014, something
2014.
like that.
Oh, yeah, 10 years, decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I came in 2012
Yeah.
with Ben, Ben Marcus, the same
Yeah.
that same.
You guys started the same day.
Yeah, on the same exact day.
Wow. He's still at Apple now, right?
Yeah, he's an engineer at Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a special guy. Yeah, I learned
Yes.
from him a lot. Yeah, he's just that brain is of his is crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a lot of smart people. I think Tracx was that company. For me at least, when I started, it was even through the interview process, all the stages, and then the first day, you humble very quickly. Just
Yes. Yes.
like okay, everyone here is smarter than me. Awesome. It's like I think it's easier also to say that with experience because it's like it's not like it's not frightens you as much. Um, but it's yeah, like I've been like for what 2.5 years, 2 years. I think every day was like you learn something new and you get better just from the
Yeah.
people you work with.
Yeah.
It's that was that place for me really. Yeah.
Oh, I have you ever stagnated at a specific? Have you ever been in a position where you stagnated in tech, where you felt like you're doing the same exact thing for years? I've never experienced that. Everyone tell me, oh, there's certain type of people, they do COBOL and they go into in the morning, they do that COBOL thing and they go out. I never experienced that. Who does that in tech?
Uh, a lot of people, I think, not me. I think if I felt that, I left. it's
You would go crazy probably.
uh, I think like it's just you're going backwards a little bit, right? It's again, it's like if you have a family, you have a mortgage, you have responsibilities. I think you will be less brave to just jump between kind of jobs. Like it's like you have if you
Right,
don't have
right,
if you don't have fuck you money, like it's
right.
kind of you're gonna stick around. You're gonna try more, try harder, but at some point, yeah. Like I think when I left the trucks, I left from D-Whip, the gaming company I worked at, which also was great experience. Been there for 4 years. The company they had an exit, and you learn from that too. Well, when we spoke last time, I think if we touched that, uh, you don't sell beautiful code, right?
Right,
It's
exactly.
for the business, yeah. And we definitely didn't have that a lot of the areas. People were great, and I think that would make that company very successful. And timing, the timing. But at the end, like I left a company when I was very comfortable at. Like the place was, I met my wife there, right? Like we worked together.
Nice.
Like we live together, and you go, you wake up, you go to work, you have your coffee. Like it's awesome. I work there with my friends that I knew them for years. It's kind
Yeah.
of before like some of my friends there we work like we knew each other from uni. Like we knew each other for a while, and it was from culture and people, it was amazing. But from tech point of view, I left because and I didn't learn much. And after they sold the company, after the exit, the new company, the new owners,
Right.
it's like imagine you buying a company now, you're gonna put 100 mil or whatever you're gonna put on a table, and then the team lead of the back end like just kind of comes in and say, hey, I want to fix technical debt and I want to start improving things before we're gonna go and work on new features. Like, what are you talking about? We just kind of like we need to make more money, which makes sense.
Right. Move fast and break things. Move fast and
Yeah,
break
yeah,
things.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So to me, it kind of felt like it's time to move on. I felt like I'm starting to stagnate, right? It's like everything, it's kind of the same, and there's no time for anything new. Which again, I understand their point of view, but for me, it wasn't. Yeah, for me, it wasn't like with all that. It was very comfortable. I had to move forward, and that's how I applied for Tracx, and that's it. Yeah, it's.
It's
I
it,
actually I don't remember who introduced me to Tracx. It was totally by. I was.
it was a
I was.
referral.
Uh, Wait, I actually don't remember.
Who
I
was it?
think what I do remember it was I was looking to do a take a break for a few months because I've been there for like more than 4 years and tired. And then, we had the exit. We got good bonuses, and I could afford myself just not to work for a very long time. So I said I'm going to take a few months break. Just get study. And somebody told me you should join Tracx. If you pass the interviews, you should try.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was okay. And I went to one interview, then another, then another, then another. So yeah,
It was a very good group of people.
yeah,
Very
amazing.
good group of people.
Yeah.
Um,
I yeah, I still bring them as an example of pretty
a
much
lot.
yeah, you do like one of the best engineering cultures I ever worked at.
Which is a bit weird. Are we treating Tracx? There's a saying there's a phrase in Hebrew called ex mythological.
Mm.
When you treat your ex
Mhm.
as some kind of a
Yeah,
mythological creature, which they never were like that.
yeah,
When you were in that
mhm.
relationship, you hated them, and then after the breakup, you suddenly, oh my God, it was so beautiful, and we were completely in love. Are we doing
Yeah.
that with Tracx, or was Tracx really like an amazing? Because every time I speak, I speak with Ben, I speak with
Mhm.
Chico, I speak with a lot of people. They
Yeah.
they they think of Tracx as as a high point. Like it was very, very, very good place to work at.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Listen, it's not that we didn't have problems there. Come on,
right,
you know.
right, right.
I think the way everyone dealt with issues was exemplary to me.
Mm, mm.
It's like that I never felt like I don't think I've ever been walked in a place like that. That everyone just willingly, actually give a shit and want to help.
Right,
And it's not even about the product; they just care about each other.
right, right,
Right? It's
right,
like when I was building that style guide. It wasn't for track system, right? It was that it's going to be great for that
right,
engineering experience for the team.
right, right, right,
Right?
right.
I wanted for the designers, like to have like a get better results working with the team. Like it's like it wasn't like about efficiency. Like obviously, it's there. Like
Right.
it's when I went and tried to when I went with that idea and tried to sell that to Levon and others, I want to spend like 2 3 months doing that. Like
Mhm.
obviously, I put it more efficient because it is, but it's also I wanted to do it for you. I wanted to do it for Idan. I wanted to do it for the team.
Right. Right.
And funny enough, when I think that's why I learned it there. That's why I really understood that. And maybe not then, but just after that, when you do it for the people, for the people that work with you, for your,
Right.
person on the right and the left, you get all that efficiency because, your team is the people, your company is the people you work with. So, and I think, again, like we didn't have to, didn't have to motivate each other. Like I don't
Right.
remember any of those conversations. Let's do it together. Everyone just did it
Yeah. Came together and
all
run
the
the
time.
team.
Yeah, all the time. And again, in those 2 years that I've been there, it's still kind of I have more memories, like good memories,
Right.
and then places that I worked for, like 4 years or 5 years, and I'm still in touch with other people that I work there with.
Yes.
So
Which is a point it's an interesting situation, like a cultural differences. You're now in Australia, I'm in the US.
yeah,
And if you take, the company you worked before Tracx, you still in touch with people. You met your wife there.
yeah.
You met people in Tracx with whom you're friends with, and I feel the same. Like when I was at where I was I'm currently at the Tel Aviv office.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship persevere throughout time. You still talk to each other. You're still friends. And I maybe it does exist in the US to a degree. I haven't felt that. I felt that in the US they keep telling you, this is very, very professional. This is very, very non-personal.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any friends at work. Keep it professional. Which is very, very different from what I was used to, and I'm still used to. Like I still going to work,
Yeah.
and I still in the US build that connection as a human being, right? You have to do that. I don't know if you have to do that, but that's us, I think, from the culture we came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, and like when we said the culture we came from, it's like
Yeah,
because people ask me like here, like so where you from? Where's your
yeah,
accent from?
exactly.
And it's
So
kind of
let's start with that. How
yeah, it's a bit of a story.
where it started and how
Yeah,
Israel
no,
influenced that.
and when I was born in Odessa, it's in Ukraine. When I was born there, it was Soviet Union,
Right.
and we didn't speak Ukrainian. We spoke Russian. Odessa was like also very unique place in that regard. It's like a port city, lots of tourists, huge Jewish community. So part
There
of
was
Mhm.
there was tourism at Soviet
Yeah,
Union. Where
from inside, from
from
inside.
inside, from
Yeah,
inside.
yeah. Don't forget, it's a huge place, right?
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
Did
So yeah. Mhm.
I know that Stalin forced um like some people from Russia to move to Ukraine, some people from Ukraine to move to Russia. Was
I
that
think
Stalin?
all over. Yeah. So as far as I know, my family from my mother's side
Mhm.
been in Odessa for generations.
Right.
Like my grandpa was born there, and when there was the Second World War, a lot of families moved to more remote areas because Odessa was under Nazi occupation, and my grandpa was is an officer in the Red Army. So, but then they came back after the war. They came back to Odessa. My father side, I think they from Russia,
Mhm.
um, and his father, um, he was the only survivor from his family.
Wow.
They lived in Russia in a village, and the Germans apparently just burned the whole village. And he's one of the kids that survived. and forest, and it's kind of, for us, this story is crazy, right? For Russians, it's part of their identity, and
Right.
lots of people have that story in their family. It didn't speak about that much. It never told me that. My dad told me that, and also in a very good conversation. It was never like something he talked about that. My great grandpa from my mother's side, the one that served in the Red Army, he was a writer. He wrote the whole war, the whole time, and eventually his books end up in the Second War Museum in Odessa. So yeah, and I remember when I was very little, he used to read to us like stories that he wrote and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, so from my dad was born in Germany because his father served in the army. He stayed in the army for many years, and then he was in Germany, in East Germany, and so my dad was born in Germany, and then after I think not after, probably before, just finished his time in the army, and retired from the army, and then they came to Odessa, and yeah, my parents went there. So, and my dad also not Jewish, so but it wasn't a big problem. Yeah.
So when the war ended, they placed him in East Germany,
I
where
I
your father was
yeah
born, and then they came back to Odessa.
yeah. I think my grandpa from my father's side, he was a child when the war, the Second World War, and then when he grew up and joined the army, then just served and then stayed in East Germany for a while.
I see.
Then he got married. Then my dad was born in Germany, and they moved to Odessa when I think he was like 6 or 7. Yeah, but he doesn't speak German, so yeah. But it wasn't like Germany. Like he doesn't have German citizenships, obviously.
Right.
Because occupation. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so Odessa was very unique place in that regard because it was, they kind of always said that because it has a huge Jewish community there, and they all spoke,
One of the famous ones.
yeah, and and a lot of them spoke Yiddish. So it's kind of, and besides that, a lot of people been there from other places, and some places, from East Europe, and some from West Europe, and then that. So a lot of people spoke at home, Yiddish, German, or French, like different languages, and then they spoke Russian. So in Odessa, they have that very unique slang. So when my mom speaks with her, friends, that also from there, it's kind of, you can hear that. Like it's a very specific slang. It's like probably like New Yorkers, right? If New Yorkers speak, you know from where they're from. So yeah, and funny enough, some words in Hebrew actually came from that city. So just stay there as part of the language, and yeah. So we were there, and I was there until I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
And Soviet Union broke down, and I remember that as a kid.
Wow.
Like I remember, I think it was in second grade, we still got that like a little thing to put on our uniform with Lenin's face. It was
Really?
yeah. It was like, it was still a thing, like when I was in primary school. And then it's all finished, and
it's amazing.
like
There's a
this.
saying, it took years to happen, and then it happened overnight.
It's crazy. It's like, and like big part of Soviet Union was like that education, right? Same education for everyone, as far as I remember. Again, I'm not an historian. For me in school, like the education was good. It's it's really good. I don't know. I like school there. Teachers were tough. There was the respect for teachers. Like the teacher will come into the class, everyone stand up. You wanna say something, you're gonna raise your hand. It was very, kind of. There's a huge respect to teachers there. we had like journals, personal journals, and each day a teacher will put notes for every kid in journal. And if you did something wrong, like they will write that, and then your parents need to sign that. Like they saw that. Like it was, the learning was a huge culture.
I
Yeah.
I remember I don't remember who was the one who told me that if you skipped school for a few days, the police would knock on your door. I think it was from Lita. He told
Mm,
me if
mm.
you would skip school for too many days, the police would just knock on your door. You
I
can't
don't
skip school.
remember that. I never skipped, so, but I don't remember that. Yeah. But it's like it's crazy, the continuity of everything there. Like everything is kind of planned. Everything just kind of walked. And I would say that good or bad. It's just like I was at the same school that my dad was.
Right.
Like,
Amazing.
all the same, right? It's just crazy. Um, so we were there, and I remember it's like us studying Ukrainian, but I don't remember anyone spoke Ukrainian. So when I was there, it felt like very Russian. Like
Mhm.
nobody talked about that kind of separation. At least not in my environment. I'm sure there are people that did, but I remember when Soviet Union was pretty much done, and the Russian Federation and Ukraine and everything that happened. Uh, Life was very hard, like for us. Like, everything changed. My mom she worked she was an educator in childcare, and my dad worked in a movie studio, and like we had a good life, as
Which
far
is
as I
pretty
remember.
amazing. A movie
Yeah,
studio.
yeah, like it was pretty cool. Like it's kind of and we had a very not rich. I don't think most people won't reach then, but
Right,
we
right,
had
right,
we had comfortable life, like
right.
with friends and family, and every summer, we spent time on the beach. It was great, and suddenly, like nothing is working, you know, like there's no salaries, no nothing, and
So
yeah,
so what's the feeling like? Like, is
mhm.
it scary? Like you feel scared? What's going on now? What should we do? Like,
My parents, I'm sure they felt that, right? Like I'm as a
yeah,
kid, I didn't, but I remember like they were hustling.
right,
It's kind of they were hustling like crazy. Um, yeah, like my dad, kind of met up with some of his mates from the service, from the army, and then they open up a factory and they starting moving like alcohol from Odessa to Poland and things like that. And and my mom with my father's brother, they used to buy clothes in Ukraine and they go and sell them to Moscow just on the train. And I remember like everywhere was, I do remember that, like that I probably didn't understand that then, but like, that word corruption, but everything was corrupt.
yeah,
Like you go to the store, it's all empty. And you go, and then if you want to buy something, it's kind of like you want to buy cigarettes, right? Like
right.
there's nothing in the store. But if you go like to a few streets and you go there like after 6 p.m.,
Oh,
they just sell that on the streets. So you just
oh,
go and, and the cops will be there. They will just bribe them, like, just give them free shit. So somehow, but that's whole society. But it's again for me as a kid, I still went to school, right? It's
mhm,
uh, kind of everything continued, but just my parents kind of walked in very weird jobs, right? Something like from
right,
a very 9 to 5, right? Kind of my dad now disappears for a week and then comes back. And then, just kind of then my mom will disappear for like 3, 4 days and then she will come back and then she will do that all over again in a month. So there was like no, and again, I understand that now, as a grown up, we having my own kids that if I would be in their position, I would, I would do whatever I need to do to feed my children.
Right, exactly. To
Like
survive.
100%. And it's like, so yeah.
Could
So
you
I guess, sure.
could you explain how come like the Soviet Union broke up, like perestroika, and
Yeah,
how come corruption came out of that? Was it because
I think
the
the corruption
economic?
was always. I think the corruption was always there.
But you would expect that once we're shifting our mindset that the corruption would go away, or did it just went in phases, or
Again, yeah,
was it the fact that just the economy was in a
I think the
terrible
economy
shape?
was in the toilet for sure, but also I think the corruption was there, before. I think it's like, again, I'm not a political commentator, just from my, from
Yeah,
my
personal
as a
experience.
kid. Yeah, exactly. It's like also from family stories, right? Like it's people
Right.
have been there. I think the corruption was there. It's just part of the culture, not only Ukraine, like the whole Soviet Union, right? That's how
Right, right,
you
right,
go to
right,
the doctor, right? You give them a present. It's kind of like
right.
that's your private insurance. You just pay them on the side.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they're gonna forget a few stitches. Like that was the reality. And just because they changed the way the country now structured, it's not gonna change the culture right away.
Right.
Not really. People just it's if anything, I think because there was no people lost everything. Right? It's kind of you go from ruble to grivna or whatever the currency name, and just for some people, like for most, that's how you do things for 70 years, and now
Right.
now we have freedom. What do you mean? For
Where's my
most people,
money?
yeah, like I just, I had this bank account, and I had money there, and now there's nothing. So when you say freedom, what do you mean? It's yeah.
Wow.
So, and my parents were young, right? So they could do something about it. Imagine
Right.
people in when they were older, pension, there's suddenly no pension or pension
Wow.
that they cannot survive.
Wow.
So yeah, this type of situation, I'm gonna bring the best out of people. I'm sure, So yeah, so my family, they decided to move to Israel when I was 12 and a half. It was 1994.
Mhm.
And we moved there, like a lot of people, a lot of Jewish people, from previous Soviet Union. They started even earlier. My grandma from my mother's side, she moved to Israel in the 70s.
Wow.
That was illegal then to leave
Yeah.
Soviet Union. They were treated like the enemy of the state.
Defectives.
Yeah, like, and it's kind of, they had horrible, like, they had to go to Romania, and from Romania to go to another place, to Europe, and the way they were treated, the border, like they just took everything from them. It's
Were there any ramification for the family? Like,
well, we couldn't talk about them. Like I remember me as a kid had no idea that that they existed
wow.
because they didn't talk about them, because they will talk about it, right? And they knew as a kid, you're gonna go, hey, I have a grandma, I have a relative in Israel, and it's kind of gonna say that in school. And then somebody will hear about it,
Mm.
trouble.
Wow.
So it's always kind of hush hush. So they never spoke about that near me. It's only when we kind of left to Israel. Hey, you're gonna meet some relatives now. Like what? What do you mean? Yeah, yeah. It was it's a bit fucking crazy. It's really it's just
Yeah.
nuts. And we moved to Israel, and I was 12 and a half. And, like, again, my story is not that unique. It was like, what, million people moved
Yeah.
to Israel
The
then
bo-
from Soviet Union? Yeah.
the boost to the Israeli economy that saved
Oh,
that saved
Jesus.
that
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, exactly. And, and a lot of people said when they were like in Soviet Union, they've been, anti-Semitism, like, oh, you're Jews now, then you move to Israel, now you're Russian. Like, what do you want?
Yes, yes.
For
People
us,
bo-
it wasn't like
people
that.
people don't outside of Israel, they don't realize the struggles that they have. A lot of anti-Semites, they say the Jews work in cahoots.
Yeah.
No, the Jews hate each other.
Same as
Talking
everybody else
about
in Italy too, yeah. And it's kind of so we moved to Israel, and we had some my mom's childhood friend. She was already there for a few years, and my grandpa already moved a few years back. So yeah, just moved there, and like any other family, my mom and my dad, a bit more stability. They start working, and we lived in the north, and yeah, and then I moved to boarding school in the north of Israel, a kibbutz, and that was again like it's like was a country in a country, right? It's like it's and funny enough, I was born to Soviet Union. Then everything went to shit. Then we moved to Israel, and then I went to the kibbutz after being two years in Israel, like in public schools.
Mhm.
And kibbutz is probably the purest way of socialism.
Right.
Pretty much
That was the
the only
that
way
was
to.
the that was the socialism. That was the socialist. The people who started Israel, they were socialist
Yeah,
at their very
yeah.
core,
Yeah.
and they wanted socialism. They wanted Israel to be socialist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I lived there like for 4 years, and again that was like another culture shock, right? Because like it's so different from in the first 2 years in Israel. Like for me as a kid, it was Jesus. You go to school, and then they put all the kids, at the beginning like 6 months to study Hebrew. So they, isolate you as a group, and other kids look at you. Yeah, great. And after that, so they kind of okay, you can speak now. Go and be with they kind of throw you the general population with the other kids.
Right.
And then the teachers didn't allow us to speak Russian with each other, the kids.
Mhm.
Speak only Hebrew, and like shit like that. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, and also, but culturally, right? It doesn't really matter. Like if you're coming from this country to this country, to us, like in my house, like we never had religion, right? It's
Right.
like Russian
It was
culture. For us,
forbidden.
that Soviet Union culture was very, very secular, right?
Right.
Like so, and then we moved to Israel, and then religion just have such a big part in everyday
Right.
life, right?
Right.
And then you go like to religious studies, and you sit there like, what the fuck is this now? And my first teacher in religious studies, like the teaching you the Old Testament, she was ultra religious,
Right.
and me, like she can ask any questions. I have a few.
How does that make any sense, Miss Teacher?
Oh Jesus, yeah, it's kind of that. It's not real. What do you mean? He opened the sea and people were like, it's impossible. Mate, and it's like, and she was like, kind of, oh, all you Russians, don't have any faith.
Oh
Yeah, obviously
my
not all
God.
teachers were like that, but she was horrible. Um,
That is
and
the worst possible answer that a teacher can give to a
with the
child.
child to any,
Yeah.
any subject.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So we were there, and then I moved to the kibbutz, and there it was a private school. I got scholarship. So, again, any country you live in, private, at least then, private education, small classes. Suddenly, nobody cares where you're from. No one's talk about. The focus was on educating the kids,
Right.
but still, the whole environment was because of the kibbutz was very kind of social, kind of not communism, but very left wing,
Right.
ideology.
Left leaning
In Israel,
ideology. Yeah.
yeah. Which again, like as a culture, it was as a kid, kind of So it was, we used to talk about politics like every Friday after dinner, as a group with the educator, and we talk about that, like just that it's important to talk through things. And and then we went to hikes and singing songs and things like that. It's kind of everything was very left-wing ideology, very social, very communism like
Right. Right. Right.
ideology. Um, it was everything was about that community. Like it was,
Mhm.
you don't have a laundry, you don't do laundry by yourself. There's people that work in laundry, and then
Right.
everyone do their laundry there, and there's no money.
Right. And there's
There's
the
everyone
dining
have a
room.
yeah, exactly.
And you
Everyone have a
take
budget.
turns working in the dining room.
Yeah, everyone have a budget. The same budget for the family. Everyone get a house based on how many kids you have, right? Not based
Right.
on if you're a
And
doctor or you're a factory worker. Everyone
and
is
you
the same.
don't own the house. You never own
No,
the
of course
house.
not.
The house
No, no,
belongs to the kibbutz. That's
exactly,
that's the essence of communism, right?
exactly.
That's
There's nothing is yours, right? It's kind
right.
of it's for us as kids, it's like we study 6 days a week, and then one day a week. So we study 5 days a week, one day a week. We walked, and
Right.
every year it was kind of different area, kind of walking, farming.
Right.
So
And you go and you go the kibbutz is pretty big, and you go in on bicycle from place to place or on the
very
tractor.
safe, very safe for everyone. Everyone
Yeah,
knows, yeah,
and
small community.
it's a very, I would say, unstressful, very relaxing way of life, because you think, I don't have the stress, to produce something. I don't have competition. None of that, right? You have your morning assured. You have your lunch, dinner, everything you need is there,
Mm-hmm.
and you think that works until you find out that,
Still
oh my
doesn't.
god, yeah,
Yeah.
it really doesn't. And these kibbutzes, they were in huge debts,
Yeah.
um, to afford that kind of living.
And I used to go home. I used to go home to my parents every fortnight for a
Mm.
weekend, right? And you see the difference,
Which means
which means you see families living in the kibbutz, right? As you said, like there's no need to compete, right? You can be a farmer. You can do the same
right,
job for the whole life, right?
exactly,
You don't have to be better, right?
right,
It's
right, right,
to get more.
right,
Um, and they're like, I don't have anything, I don't need anything, right? That's or at least that the
exactly,
mindset that they told you like everyone have. But come on, people, like it doesn't really work. Like people always
right,
want more. Not everyone, but some, and you need only a very small group of people, for that not to work anymore. Um, and you need only a few people that kind of wait a second. If I can get exactly the same as those people, but I don't have to work as hard. I just kind of not gonna
that,
work hard, right?
yeah, yeah,
So there's no accountability, right, for you doing less. So it's kind of it's in a way, if there's no better result, better life for working harder, right? For wanting to have more, then there's also no any accountability for doing less, right? There's no
right,
punishment
right,
for doing less. You're gonna
right,
be
right,
everyone will get the same thing. And I think that's probably the problem there, right? It's not for people not don't want to have more. It's kind of that people want to have more, and then if they're going to work harder, they will get more land or more bigger house or whatever, bigger car. The problem is the other group probably, uh, at least to me. I don't know.
I saw there was this guy, I forgot his name. He tried to create an utopian society.
Mm,
And there is a couple of lectures from him on YouTube. I forgot his name. And he said that utopian society will work fine
Mm-hmm.
up until, so he essentially described the kibbutz, right? So
Yeah.
completely communist, everyone do something that is useful, everyone contributes. Said up until the point that a free rider jumps in and says, give me food, give me money, and I don't want to work. I just and they abuse the system. At that point, the system breaks. Yeah, and we're humans, right? It always breaks. There's always gonna be these small groups of people that will take advantage of the system and, you know,
Yeah.
corrupt it.
I think there's like a number. It's only the research. At the moment the group of people growing, it's like a tribe grows to more than 500 and something.
That's
You're
it.
gonna that's it. You're gonna start people starting, a small group will start, abusing other group, or it's gonna be
Right.
yeah. But again, for us as kids,
You don't
my
experience that.
my high school experience was amazing. Like
Right.
holy shit. It's kind
Wow.
of we've been there, like, it's kind of I think a lot of what I learned there, just first of all, you don't have parents. Your parents is, aside, and kind of we live a whole group, with kids my age, like boys, girls, we live together in a unit, right? Like it's kind of you live with another, one or two mates in a room, and you share in one shower and, and bathroom. So it teaches you from very young age, right? It's kind of, if you don't clean after yourself, nobody will fucking do it for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of it just teaches you life so quickly.
Right. Right.
And it's also kind of, you learn accountability very quickly, right? If you're going to be
Right.
dirty, you're not going to shower every day, the guys, hey, you stink, go take a shower.
Yeah.
It and they kind of used to check it every morning. You need to go wake up and clean your room, and after that they stop because people just do it. And we had like a small club for us when we had breakfast and dinner, and people cook and stuff like that. And every day one of us, it was your turn to go and clean that clubhouse for everyone. So if you're gonna leave a mess, right,
Okay.
and then someone else is gonna clean that up, like it's gonna be your turn after a week. So you're not gonna leave a
Right.
mess. Again,
Right.
obviously you had that the occasional asshole gonna leave a mess, but usually people
Right.
just gave a shit. So yeah, I've been there for 4 years, and that was like it was like immigration inside immigration, right?
Mm.
Such a different culture, at least for me. And then I finished, and then left the army, and then after the army, I went to live in Eilat, another culture. Shock. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I've been there for like a year and a half, and then I went back.
Why did you end up in Eilat from all places?
I went there just to walk, just save some money to go for a trip.
Oh.
Everybody else,
Yeah, like everybody else
crazy,
after the
right?
army. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went and I worked in a restaurant as a waiter, and then I became a manager. Then I've been stuck there for like a year and a half. Again, it was fun. It was great. The people were just, as always, it's not about the place, not about the restaurant. It's about the group of people, right? Just
Right.
like good friends, people that just enjoying the time together, and it was awesome.
Mm.
And I left, for me it was the top, right? It's kind of, I left there when I didn't want to stagnate, I guess, without understanding. But it was kind of, okay, do I want to live here all my whole life? Do I want to, be in a restaurant business? No, it's kind of not at all. So I left. Then I went, kind of studied graphic design, and then I went to engineering, and that whole story. Um, and I think from all those culture changes, it affects you. How
Right.
it's impossible, and mate, I'm glad that for every move that I did, or we moved from Ukraine to Israel. It was my parents made that decision, and they could go to Germany, they could go to US, right? And my dad was thinking moving to Canada only after a few years in Israel. Like a lot of people that moved to Israel from Soviet Union, culturally, that cultural shock for them was
Right.
huge
Too
difference,
much.
and a lot of people moved. But all of that, just all of those transitions,
Mhm.
when Evie and I start thinking, hey, how about we make another change? We weren't scared really, and
Why weren't you scared?
because I have done it so many times,
Oh, I see. You're
and
used to be on the on the road.
yeah, and it's not only the language, right? Because it's like language is a big factor, obviously, but
You know that you'll end up in a place. It will take some time. You'll adjust, and
yeah,
you'll know
what I
how
knew,
to.
yeah, like what I knew that you have to kind of what I learned there, like when you're in a specific place, you have to integrate, right? You
Right.
have to open up and adapt to the place you're at. Like that's the best way to be part of that group. And because I moved like to that kibbutz in a way that even if you're speaking the same language, because the culture was so different, right? How people think about everything, every aspect of
Right.
life.
Right.
So for us, it was like, okay, the only thing we need to learn is language, right? But for Evie, Evie's English is amazing, and I never lived in, kind of in an English-speaking country, but because I had to learn Hebrew, I spoke Russian my whole childhood, then had to learn Hebrew, and then my Hebrew was, for me, it was pretty perfect. Like, kind of
Right.
never
Right.
heard
Right.
anyone complain,
No. No.
and barely had any accent. So it's kind of, for me, it was like, yeah, just let's do it again. But something, every time you make that change, like something, you leave something, I feel like, and something, like you leave part of you because you're changing yourself, you're kind of reinventing yourself again and again and again. So you leave some part, and it's like a puzzle. You're moving something, you put in something else. It's kind of shaping you in a different way. And I learned that again, like when we moved to Australia, because such a huge country, and then you probably see that in the US too. Like you're asking people, oh, where are you from? I'm from here, and that's it. It's
Yes.
they never move.
I was born here. I grew up here. I married here.
My parents here, my uncle is here, and
Yeah.
and it's amazing. It's great.
Right.
That connection that people have to the land, to the place. It's my parents are from WA, from Queensland. I moved to here, but I
Right.
go like home. But it's still in Australia, so it's so you meet a lot of those people too, right? But also in tech, it's easier, right? You meet people that move to go to US for a few years and then come back. Lots of Aussie do that. They go to Bay Area, especially in tech.
Really?
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. I think like I never checked. I think it's maybe just easier with the visa or something. I have no idea why.
Mm.
But
Mm.
first of all, there's no language barrier, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some
It's
language
always that.
culture is like it's not that. Again, I never been in US and stayed there for many years, right? But I would think like the working culture is probably not that different. Uh, Again, it's
Well,
hard for me to say. Maybe you and I can figure out, but yeah.
I can say that the Americans are the ones that in the enterprise culture, right? Corporate culture, they are extremely patient, because they grew up and they live in a multicultural society. So for me, sometimes my English is horrible, like horrible, and especially like I've been here what 8 9 years, and when I started, I sometimes were in meetings, like I was asking myself after the meeting, how did they understand anything that I said? and
Yeah.
and you see them on the other end of the call or in that meeting. They are extremely patient, they're extremely accommodating, um, and that comes from the fact that they grew up and they live in a multicultural society. They I'm sometimes I'm pretty shocked by the level of patience that they have for other cultures, which is
Mm.
pretty interesting. Do you feel that way in Australia?
Yeah, definitely. Because, again, like it's, you go into any, at least what I saw, to any engineering department or just the company, right? You have any call, people from any background, it's kind of India, Asia,
Right.
like, Aussies, like, from England, from a little bit from US, but pretty much all over, which is pretty cool. Like it's, which something like, in Israel, like it's kind of, we didn't have that much. Like if you go, it's everyone, local, native. It's everyone speak, everyone speak Hebrew and JavaScript. Just everyone speak the same language. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's kind of that that culture. Like you have, Jewish people that came from, the North Africa and from other Middle Eastern countries, and people that came from, from Europe, but it's still that Israeli culture. Uh,
I
yeah,
think
I think your internet is a little bit, yeah.
yeah, the network is had a couple of 2 minutes of
It's getting back now. Yeah.
latency.
Yeah. So, and here, like, it's kind of because again, specifically in tech, I see that I never worked here in other industries, but what I see in tech is a real multiculturalism, people from all over. And
Right.
I enjoy chatting to those people, oh, you're from Nepal, you're from India, you're from China. Like, I enjoy this conversation, over lunch. Like, it's you learn so much, right? Like, it's for something, some people, they talk about, they kind of tells you, like, how the school was. Like, it's kind of, I don't give a shit about the politics, You're sitting, like, with a guy from, from Iran. It's kind of, which is nuts, right? Like for us, but we're sitting there and we're just
Right.
comparing stories, from high school, and it's the same shit. It's kind of, uh,
Right.
yeah, and it's like, because you have that common thing, technology. We both work in a tech company. We both care about, same thing on day to day and at work. And yeah, I don't know. Like I think I also feel like it's there's lots of patience, very tolerant here. Um, but yeah, I think I will put my headphones because there's some. I think my kids came home, so you won't hear the noise. Yeah.
No, I'm not hearing the noise. Just extreme latency for the video and audio. One thing funny that happened. You reminded me of the Iranians. When we first came to the U.S., my kids had a rough time with the Israelis, with the Israeli kids.
Really
They really didn't like my daughter and my son. So they started bullying my daughter at the time when we first came, the Israeli kids. And behold that the group of kids that picked up my daughter and became friends with her, um, were Iranian girls, a
crazy.
group of Iranian kids, and they are, yes, and they are good friends up until this day. Um, they are invited to weddings, they are invited to events, they are invited to bar mitzvahs. Um, there is Here in the U.S. there is a good bond between Iranians and Jews, and you think about it, that's crazy because if you were in the Middle East, we would probably fight each other.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's
I
crazy.
met a few
It's
Iranians.
crazy.
I met a few
Like,
Iranians here, like again.
I
Yes,
don't
it's
I don't
exactly
really get it.
exactly the result.
That kind of discussion. It's
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's obviously all the politics and wars, all that bullshit. But it's like it's
yeah.
eventually people just people, and
But
yeah.
let me ask you this. So
Mhm.
go back to where you started, the fact that you know, like I said at the beginning, that I see that the people I made friends with at Tracx, the people I made
Yeah.
friends at the Tel Aviv office of the company where I work now, they have a long relationship, right? We stay in connection.
Yeah.
Some of these people we're on a daily, weekly basis communicating, versus in the US, you have to keep it more.
Yeah.
You have to keep it more professional.
hmm
Do you do you experience the same
Australia.
in Australia?
Um, I think there's something here, like in a culture that there's like work. What I learned only for my last 7 years here, people kind of it's work and it's kind of work relationships. Um,
Right.
and but some I was still able to create relationships and meet friends. But I think it's also, again, you coming from a different culture, right? It takes time to integrate. Um, so it's maybe it's our experience. Maybe like people that were born here or been longer here. They have different experience, but we learned that it's from from every job. Like it's kind of you leave a job, you start a new job, you barely keep in touch with people from the previous job. Uh, Again, something very, very different experience that I had, in Israel, for example. Because I think over there was no separation between work and it was like kind of we spent so much time
Yes,
at work. Like at least at the startups, it's kind of you don't go because it's 6 p.m.
they do that here as well, but
Okay. In US, you work longer hours, you think, like than Israel, or just in general?
sometimes people work here longer hours, but if definitely in startups, but I don't think they take it into a place where it becomes personal relationships. I don't know why.
Yeah,
They always keep it
it's
very, very
weird.
professional.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little bit weird to me, right? It's kind of because to me, like it's, and again, you cannot force that, right? You never force that, obviously. But to me, if you create,
Right.
if your team they have close relationship with each other, right? And when I say close, right, people just can talk to each other. And I think we spoke about it. Like if you and I know each other, right, kind of outside of work, right, and I know a little bit about your family, about your background, and just kind of day to day stuff, right? Like we talk, right? Kind of we talk at lunchtime outside of work, right? We talk, we talk about just life, and we can argue about politics, and we can disagree and still stay friends, right? It's okay.
Right.
There's and I think that's like there's no taboo, right? There's like no, and I think maybe that's the issue because like in Israel we could talk about anything pretty much, right? It's kind of there was no, oh, you can't talk about this, right? Go fuck yourself. Like I can talk about whatever I want, and people can just yell at each other and then smile and hug, and that's
Right.
okay. Like at Tracx, we used to argue about everything all the time. Why not? Right? That's how you learn. You talk to people, you disagree,
Right.
and
Right.
someone
Right.
comes in and then they change your mind because maybe they know something that you don't. That's how you get better. I think here it's
Right.
there's a little bit that the culture, the part of that culture, everything needs to be very nice and comfortable, which is good. So to keep that, let's just, hey, we're not going to talk about this, at work. Like, we're not going to talk about politics at work. We're not going to talk about, personal stuff. And then that's why people are not getting close to each other, I guess, right? But to me, if the people are close to each other,
I see.
like if you and I know each other a bit better, we had a few arguments about politics or just in general, right? Like, and we still know we can disagree and still can stay friends and, communicate. Well, then I can also go and tell you, hey, your last PR was shit, and we need to work on that. And you're not going to get offended, right? We're just going to focus, like, it's not about you, it's about the problem, right? It's about the PR. Let's talk about that. So I think that's the biggest difference I see in cultures that also have impact on a day-to-day at work, especially like as engineers, right? Because a lot of what we do kind of relies on feedback from your peers. So to me, like, in order to be able to provide feedback, you need, or accept feedback, even more important. Both actually equally important. You need to know the person behind it. Right? It's maybe, again, that's at least that's how I look at things. Right? It's like that context is important.
Right.
What do you think? I don't know, like how it's in US, and what's your experience?
Yeah. I fully. What? Yeah, I mean, exactly like that. I think you need to be. They try to be very, very careful to make sure that there is a safe space, that everything, you're not offending anyone. You're not, because being too much direct has its cost, has its downsides. And when you're too much direct, you offend people. And when it's different when you're in a small country like Israel, which is, I don't know, 7 million people, something like that.
More now,
And here in the US, it's 340 million people. So you cannot manage a country of 340 million people the same way that you manage a country of 7 million people.
Yeah.
So it's very different.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's, and as I told you before, right? It's kind of because we moved around and took something from every culture, right? It's kind of every time I adapted myself, I guess it changed me a little bit. Which, we go through life, you get experience. That experience, you kind of, it changes something in you. Usually, it's some of it can be traumatic, some of it can be, whatever it is. It stays with you. And for me, like, I learned that it's really all about people. Like language, it's, people will find a way to communicate. You can find it, you can, like, similar to you, right? When I moved to Australia, after a month and a half, I found myself across a CEO of a startup, and I could speak English, but I had to explain to her, like, you're making a really bad decision of building all this, that you don't need all this, right? You actually need a very small VPN, very small MVP, and let's try to build this. And you kind of find yourself, don't know the culture, don't know the background, don't have the context, and you have to go and explain all that. Yeah, it was I don't know. Yeah. All right. So we are having some internet connection issues today. Fortunately, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, listen, mate, it's an awesome chat. I actually want to continue. Maybe just this week or later, this week or next weekend or something. yeah, like it's kind of, we started, digging into those cultural differences. I'm keen to hear,
Agreed.
keen to hear about your experience, kind of moving to US and everything, and
Yes.
kind of take it from there. Yeah. So maybe we just
Definitely.
eventually just merge those videos
Yeah.
together. But yeah. All right, sounds good. So have a nice. Well, you're now on Saturday evening, right? So enjoy your Sunday.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, and we're gonna chat next week.
Same to you, mate.
All right, mate.
Bye.
Bye for now.